morning, everyone. I'm back, Demisha Ricks, Miss Money Senses, and I told you we're going to talk about banking. Now, we talked about jobs. Of course, there's many more things we could talk about jobs, but I wanted to talk to you about where you can put your money. Now, this is an important discussion because I can't just let anybody hold my money. I don't know about you, but I don't trust everybody with my money. Real life. Okay. So, just so you know, there are about 5,000 banks in the US. So we know there are many different areas where you can put your money. It's all about research, what you can take and what you can't take. Okay? We're going to talk about retail banking first. Now, retail banking, I'm looking at my handy dandy book. Again, how to move out and not be broke. Retail banking is a consumer bank. So these are your mass market banks where they have multiple branches, multiple employees. A lot of times they're across the nation, or they can even be international. So like your big ones like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America. So those are your big ones. Discover Card, American Express, they all have banks in them, okay? And as well as their credit card services, which may or may not be the biggest thing. Now, the services that they have, now you're going to get the typical services at all the banks. All the banks. You're going to have your savings, you're going to have your checking, CD. So those are certificate of deposits. We get to talk about those a little later. Those are areas where you can save money that you're not going to touch for a certain amount of time. And it has a little bit more of a savings interest rate than a regular savings account that is generally about 1%. It might be a little bit higher because you're not going to touch the money for maybe a year, 5 years, 10 years, okay? Now, there are some banks that are, maybe only in your region. Southwest, East Coast, Northeast, Midwest. There may be something that's just there. Now, you want to consider some of these because there are things that you want to have access to, and a lot of people want to speak to a person about their account. Now, sometimes also, in working in the banking industry, when I worked at a bank, you may have someone who initiated their account in a different state. So say they initiated their account in Texas, and then they were in Arizona to look at something on their account. Those are two different, while it may be the same bank, there would be two different, my brain just went totally blank on the word, processing institutions. The Fed Reserve. There are 12 Federal Reserves across the nation. And that will be, since there's 12, obviously there'll be different ones. They have different routing numbers at the bottom of a check. So one of the easiest ways to tell, I'm going to show you an example of a check, okay? Because a lot of young people don't know about a check. We don't typically write them nowadays because a lot of things are electronic. They come through electronically with the numbers that are on the bottom of a check to process. So I'm going to show you an example here, okay? So this would be where the routing number is. And I say this is the routing number. It's easy. It's in between the smiley faces. See, it always has the two dots with the line and the other two dots with the line. So it's in between two happy faces. It's going to be 9 digits. The first 2 digits are going to indicate the region that it's in. So I believe the 2 industries that I worked in, that either started with a 3-2, which I think was Texas. I'm not sure which one it is. It's been a long time. And the other one started with a 1-2. So sometimes they don't have as much access as you would in your home state. Now, the other thing that you want to know is if you were to look at a check. Now, some of us don't have a physical account, so you get a physical check because you don't have direct deposit. It'll have the name of the company. It'll have the address of the company. It'll have the date. It will have who it is to. Now, the good old cash, what is not what it'll be when it's your paycheck, okay? But obviously, if you're writing a check, this is the hardest one to come by. When I say it's the hardest one, anybody can cash your check when it says cash. Now, if you pay somebody with a check and be like, well, I paid you, it said cash on it. You have nothing to show that it was specifically to that person. That can mess you up. And then you want to talk about the amount. So the amount I have on here is $157. When you are writing an amount, make sure you use the whole line, because if you do not use the whole line, people who are fraudsters and people who take your checks can alter the amount. So you can say it says $157, and it says to change cents. They can change the cents, they can change the amount, because it's easy to change this. It looks like a 1, you can change to 7. And if you didn't have it written out completely, it can be changed easily on this line. Then you sign it. I know they've taken cursive out of the school system, but please make sure you know how to sign your name in cursive. Print, a lot of people can copy print easily, okay? Now, back to banking. So you got the banks, you have your big banks. Now, a lot of times you're going to do everything through your bank, which seems like kind of crazy. Like, why am I doing everything through my bank? What you mean everything, Demisha? Come on, tell me what you mean. Now, usually speaking, when you get your account, you're going to be like, oh, I got my checking, I got my savings over here. Boom, I'm set. Then you're like, oh, all right, so I'm going to start getting, let's say you on the come up. I'm on the come up, about to get me a house. I'm going to get my mortgage through my bank. Sometimes it can be harder at a retail bank to go ahead and get your financing. Now, that's something we'll talk about a little bit later, but let me get back to this. Some of the things that you want to consider when getting an account. Now, here's the things that I always consider, because I'm about keeping my own money. If somebody gonna spend it, it's going to be me, not anybody else, or fees. So one of the first questions I ask is, do you want an account that is free or has a cost? Okay. Now, that might seem like a simple question. Tamisha, I don't want no dang cost on my account. Yes, but there are generally perks to accounts that have a fee, because you have to have a different type of, you have to have a certain amount of money. So then that's the second question. Is there a minimum balance required? That means if your account goes below that minimum balance, you will get a fee. So let's say an account could be like a money market account. That's a type of savings. There's money market checking as well. So money market checking, money market savings. If you have below 5,000, below 2,500, then you getting the fee. Whatever the fee is, you're getting that fee for the month. And generally, if you keep your amount above that, you might be getting some interest, and then 2, you're going to have, you might have a fee waiver because you've met the minimum balance, or you met the deposit. So it's like, what benefits do your bank offer? Now, I'm telling you now, most of the banks offer the same dang benefits. It just depends on who you feel like dealing with at that time. Okay. And it's like, is there a return on my investment? Now, generally speaking, a free checking or any kind of free account is not going to give you that much money. Obviously, because if you ain't paying into it for your fees, then how much is really going to give you some money if I have no fees collected? So that's something to think about. And then, here's the thing. There might be like some things like cashback. This is more of your credit card type thing, which we could talk about, which we'll discuss later. So it may be 25%. 0.25%. Not even a whole percent. 0.25%. That's pennies. You getting pennies. Let's just keep it simple. You getting pennies. Okay. So there are a lot of people who like to work in cash. When I was at the bank, there are people who just cash their check, work in cash. I don't use a savings account. I don't use a checking account. Or they may not have their paperwork, because we had a lot of refugees. So they may not have had their paperwork yet to get an account. So they just had to cash their check. They had ID to be able to cash their check, but they didn't have what they needed to get an account. So some of them just carry cash all the time. Okay. I had my purse stolen with a car payment. Literally, I was going somewhere, and I was about to go, I was doing some volunteer work, and I didn't take my purse inside. And after the volunteer work, I was going to make my car payment. Purse got stolen. $400 car payment gone. I don't trust cash money like that. Period. Okay? We don't do that here. But if you're going to use cash, because some places go use cash, You go to the get your nails done. You know, they be trying to charge you the little 45 cent to use your debit card. Skirt, no. And I want to give a tip because, you know, you working on my toes, you working on my feet, get my eyebrows on fleek, you doing something. So I want to give you a tip. ATM. If you're not using the ATM that is in your network, as in if it's a big retail bank like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, if you aren't using their bank, you are going to have a fee. It's going to be between $1 and $5. Okay. Some banks give it back. A lot don't. Because if they have that many branches and you can't find one of my branches, why am I going to give you the money back? Now, if you're at a place that doesn't have a lot of branches, they may cover or they may rebate you back the amount that you paid in fees. Like I have an account because it literally doesn't have any branches where I'm at. So I don't have that temptation to go down to the branch, give me some money. But if I need to, I get the money out. It gives me, it charges me the fee. And then at the end of the month, I get my money back for the fee. Okay, cool, whatever. It does what it do. Now, here's the thing. Demisha, what happens if the bank goes under? What happens to my money? What's going to go on if something were to go down? And what if the system went down? Okay, well, for the retail banks, they're covered by what is called the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And their standard deposit insurance coverage limit is $250,000 per depositor. Demisha, what if I have more than $250,000? Because you balling. Okay, you balling. It's all right. You over there in the NBA with your check money. All right, that's good. But they covered up to $250,000. So if you got more than that, you need to put it in more than one bank account because they will only cover up to that amount. This is why the people who have money don't keep it all in one spot. Let me do like if I'm trying to get my money on the level that the people that got money, I'm gonna do like they do. Let me not keep it in one spot. Okay. Now let's talk about credit unions. Now credit unions are local to your region, so they are in order to even qualify to work with them or to have your accounts with them, you have to live in the locale, whether you worship, work, or have an address where you live there. Because, you know, sometimes, you know, I lived in Arizona at the time. So there are snowbirds. So they live here during the winter because it's nice. And they leave in the summertime because it's a desert. It's hot. So they have the ability to do so. Okay, so to get into the account because they have an address here. Or they may worship here half the year. Whatever the case may be. Now it's like, Demisha, are the credit unions covered like the retail banks are covered? Yes. They are covered by the NCUA. It is the National Credit Union Administration. They cover, much like the FDIC does, up to $250,000. Okay, so the accounts are generally about the same. You got your savings, you got your checking, you have all this kind of stuff that you can get the same at a credit union. And a lot of times you can get more involved when speaking to someone at a credit union, and you generally don't get a lot of those. You get some sales. I don't get it. I still get the sales. Like, do you want this other account? Have you thought about getting this? You know, expanding your relationship within the bank. Because the more of a relationship that you have with somebody or an institution, the less likely you are to leave. If you have multiple accounts there, it takes you some time to leave if they get on your nerves. Of course, they're going to ask if you want some more accounts. Let's be real, okay? So one of the basic accounts I'm going to talk about is a savings account, because a lot of times you can't get a checking account if you're not a certain age unless you have somebody signed on there with you. So a savings account, this is generally where you start, can have a certain amount of balance. You may have to start it off with $25 or whatever the case may be. Now this is good. Like, let me save up, get my whip. Because at 15, I was trying to save up to get a whip. My mom and dad was, I'm not paying for a car. Driving is a privilege. Have somewhere to save your money. I'm frugal, so let me just put it in the bank so I can't touch it anyway. Boop. Safe. However, there are limitations. It is a federal mandate. It is not something your bank can get around. You have 6 transactions within your savings account before you start getting fees, or they freeze your account. Different institutions can do different things. Either they stop you, and make it so you can't get your money no more until, until the next month. Your month starts over the calendar day. Or sometimes it starts over with the day that you started your account. So if you started on your account on the 15th, it goes 15th to 15th. Okay, so you still have the 6 transactions. That means when you cash your check, make sure you get out how much you're going to get out that you need to spend. Like, oh, okay, well, I made $200. Like I said, we talked about this. Minimum wage, only so many hours you can get while you're in school. Let me bring that home. Let me put some money in my account. Well, what am I saving up to? All right, let me put 50 in my account and let me hold 150 with me. Well, don't be trying to go over there and dwindle it down. 1, a savings account may have a minimum balance. 2, you only have a certain amount of transactions where you can get it. Get your funds without a fee. Okay, so those are some things to consider. Now I'm going to tell you about the checking account and the crazy things that I have seen on the next video. Okay, so don't forget to check back in. Like, subscribe, hit the little bell button, ding, so you are aware when Miss Money Senses comes back. Demisha Ricks, I'm signing out, and I'll see you soon.